After we know the width of the swatch is how we want it, the next step is to measure the number of rows per inch. And a good way to do that is to start by putting a pin. Again, we want kind of near the top because you want good rows. And I try to mark it so that there's a stitch that's, you're not splitting a stitch, you're clear where the first stitch is going to be. And then you lay your ruler on and you want 3 inches. Make sure that your ruler is lined up with a row of stitches. So it's not like this, cutting across the column of stitches. Make sure that the ruler is lined up exactly with your column of stitches. So I'm going to measure over to 3 inches and then mark where that is. Okay. Now, I like to use my loom tool then to count along with me, and I'm going to count how many stitches are in between the 2 needles. I came up with 32.5 stitches between the marks, and actually then I would normally count again. Once you know how many rows it is for 3 inches, then you divide that by 3, and that gives you your rows per inch. So when I divide 32.5 divided by 3, I get 10.8. So I have 10.8 rows per inch. Once you're done with your measurements, you can remove the pins and then put your yarn back on your yarn winder and wind it up to start your project. After you have all of your measurements, the next step is to go through the worksheet that comes with the pattern. And our goal is ultimately to come up with the number of foot rows you need to crank. So you'll know how many, there's a certain number of rows for the toe and for the heel. And when you subtract those out of the total number of target rows, you come up with the number you need to crank for the foot for your sock to fit. So we're going to start with our target foot length. And remember, when we traced around on the paper with the pencil, we got 10.25 inches, and we subtracted 0.25 inches to account for the pencil. So the total length of the foot was 10 inches. If you went online and looked at a chart for a shoe size and it said the foot length was 10 inches, you do not subtract the 1/4 of an inch. 10 inches is the number. But then right here, we're going to subtract 1/2 inch for negative ease. And again, that's because you want the sock to be just a little bit snug on your foot to fit comfortably. So 10 inches minus 1/2 inch for negative ease is 9.5 inches. We then write down our rows per inch, which was 10.83. And then we multiply those first 2 numbers in order to get the total rows we're trying to have for our foot. And depending on how stretchy your sock is, you can round either up or down. So for me, I came up with 9.5 times 10.83 is 102.9, which I am rounding up to 103. Now we need to know the number of cylinders you're going to work for the toe, which is the number of cylinder needles divided by 2. So I'm using a 60 needle cylinder, divided by 2 is 30. And then you need the number of cylinder needles to work for the heel. Because we're doing a wedge heel, it's 2/3 of the number of cylinder needles. It's the total number, the big way around between those wedge heel target marks. So 2/3 of 60 is 40. Now we need the number of target needles. So on my cylinder, that's the numbers in between the pink marks. And again, our chart online would tell you how many for each cylinder, and that should be what you already have marked as well. So on my 60 needle cylinder, that's 10. Now we're going to start with line D, which is 30, and we're going to subtract line F, which is 30 minus 10 is 20, plus 2 is going to be 22. And now we're going to take line E, and we're going to subtract line F. 40 minus 10 is 30, and then minus 2 becomes 28. And then we divide that result by 2. 28 divided by 2 is 14. Now we take line H, 14 times 1.5, which is 21. And then finally, we add all of this up. So we start with line C, 103, minus line G, 22, minus line I, 21, and I come up with 60 rows. So I'm going to crank 60 rows for the foot in order to make my sock fit. Visit us at deanandbean.com and please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.